That sound. That sound means we are up in the attic. Your boy, Philanthropy and Focus. Your boy, the one and only nonprofit sector connector. I was at my kid's school yesterday, and I found out that my son. It was fun run, the fun run at school, and I get to be the MC of fun run every year, where they go around, the kids run around the track, and they get a ribbon, they get really cool sunglasses. I got a nice pair of red shades out of the deal, and I found out that my son told his teachers, um, the one and only Tommy D is going to be here later today. Lisa, the one and only Tommy D is going to be here later today. And I go, wow, I got that kid trained. I didn't even know he liked me that much, but he was actually pretty excited that I was going to be there. I don't know if we had an argument that morning before he went to school, but certainly he was pretty proud that his dad was going to be there at the fun run. So I call myself the one and only Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector. And that's what it's about. It's about bringing together the nonprofit sector and really bringing together the for-profit sector to support the work that the nonprofit sector is doing. This is a journey that I'm on. You know, I'm planning to do 5,000 episodes of this show. I think it's important to continue to spotlight nonprofit organizations. So what do we do on the show? I help nonprofits tell their story and amplify their message. Lisa Birch, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, one and only Tommy D.
My friend, we get each other, man.
Good to
That's what my
see you.
daughter says. We get each other. You and me, I think you get me. I feel
I
like
think so.
yeah, we connect. Certainly, we're going to get into a lot of different topics. We're going to learn about you, your background, the organizations that you run, right? Because it's a family of organizations. So we'll dive into that. Really, the first of all, shout out. I just pulled up LIBN, Long Island Business News, because you were showing me. I actually saw a picture on Facebook late last night, early this morning, and then you showed me. I'm calling it a trophy, but it's an award, which is just over for y'all that are watching the video, just over, if I turn this way, Lisa's right shoulder. So that trophy over there. Top 50 women in business, Lisa Birch, Epic Family of Human Service Agencies, Epic Long Island. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Before You're welcome. You're welcome. Before we even got started, there was another like bulletin poster that had come from an event. The HIA honored your organization just last week. So, you know, it makes me think of in 2 weeks, actually 11 days, the New York City Imagine Awards will be at Gustavino's in New York City, fourth ever New York City Imagine Awards. I will be there. We're excited about that event. A couple of my guests who've been on the show, several of my guests who've been on the show are finalists in several categories. And the Long Island Imagine Awards, which if you pay attention to this show, everybody, you know I'm always talking Imagine Awards. The applications are out right now, longislandimagineawards.com. So check that out. If you can't find the website, I was going to say call me up, but you probably don't have my number. But if you can't find the website, hit me up on Instagram, tommyd.nyc. Send me an email, tommyd at philanthropy and focus, phocus.com. And check out the two new Instagrams that I made. I'm trying to get some people to really focus on ending the stigma around mental health. That conversation must happen. I'm wearing my Ending the Stigma t-shirt. I actually underneath my Horseability hoodie. But I've been giving out the t-shirt. Lisa, I got to get you one of these t-shirts. The whole thing about the t-shirt is I'm getting it to folks get the free t-shirt. The first one's free. That's to just say, I need you as leaders in the community to wear this shirt, do a quick video. Why is ending the stigma around the mental health conversation important? I say mental health. Some people say mental illness. The point is, we all have needs. We all need support, and we're going to work together. So I'm on this campaign. I came up with a whole other riff of it, where now what I want to do is as I make more and more t-shirts, I might say to Epic, for all the t-shirts you're able to get people to buy, a big percentage of the revenue that comes in goes back to Epic. Because to be honest with you,
Great.
I'm not looking to make money out of this thing. I'm looking to change the world.
Yeah.
So hashtag ending the stigma together. That's the new hashtag. So check out Ending the Stigma Together on Instagram, and then also the nonprofit sector connector on Instagram. And let's connect, man. Let's just hang out. Lisa, let's get into your story. I mean, there's so much here. I can read my notes. I hate to do that really, but I might refer to them as we go through. Because I think I told you the other day when I was a kid, I used to like to watch this show on A&E called Biography. And it was like telling the story about someone's life and where they came from and what informed their career choices. And we met a year and a half ago originally through one of my other ventures, the Philanthropy Network in New York. When you were at FCA, we had a pizza party over in Hempstead. I brought Italian ices. Shout out to my dad, Ralph's Ices in Huntington. But, we met that day, and then we had a dinner through the nonprofit resource hub, and there was one cute thing that I remember. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to bring it up. I think one of our friends at dinner, and it was a number of nonprofit leaders here on Long Island, had said, most people don't want to be a CEO one day. Like nobody set out. Remember that comment? It's like nobody set out to be a CEO, and you were like, "Well, what did you say there?"
I did.
Yes.
And I honestly, well, first, listen, thank you so much for having me on the show. This is wonderful. I love that you do this. I enjoy listening to the episodes. You connect with a lot of really great people, so many of them that I know. I'm just, I'm honored to be on Philanthropy and Focus on your show. It's great.
Well,
But yeah, that night I said that, and I don't know. I feel like it might have been the first time that I maybe said it out loud. But it's been a dream of mine. It's been the ultimate career goal for me, right? So I've worked in this field for a long time. I've done nothing but work in nonprofits ever, except for my stint at Wendy's, which was my first job. I guess that would be considered for profit. But ever since then, all I've ever done is work in nonprofit, whether it's, at my summer camp or, I volunteered. I did an internship in college at a battered women's shelter. That's where I really kind of learned a lot about, women and violence and the work that I had done in that earlier in my career. All right, I worked at a bank at school, so I got to be, full disclosure.
Listen, you can break the rules a little bit. I mean,
I did. I tell people I've never done anything but nonprofit. Now I think about it, so I don't want to be, called out by anybody saying that I.
But we're not going to bring you in for a trial. Don't worry about it, man. It's not that. It's funny you'd say my brother's first job was at Wendy's, and my children still remember this to this day because one time I must have told them, yeah. So my brother used to work at Wendy's, and one time he brought me home like all these extra chicken nuggets. And this was like a thing. It was like a thing I said one time. And it was probably like 30 chicken nuggets. It wasn't like a case of chicken nuggets. They were like cooked. They were going to go in the garbage, and he brought them home for his big brother, right? I said that to my kids. You thought I would have said my brother worked at Fort Knox and brought me home a bunch of gold bars. They were like, remember that time when you got all those chicken nuggets? I was like, kind of, I remember it. I don't even remember telling them that story, but I know we know Wendy's for sure.
They remember it. They remember it. It's a great place to work. Story. Great place to start my career. But you know what? I honestly, I've just always gravitated toward the nonprofit field. When I finished college, I actually went directly into graduate school. I was going to the Hunter School of Social Work to get my MSW because I was a psych major. I knew I wanted to be some kind of a counselor or a therapist. That was sort of where I wanted to go. There were a series of events that occurred where I made the decision to not stay in that program. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I remember sitting in a diner with my parents. I was the first kid to go to graduate school in my family. So I sat there in the diner and I remember telling them, listen, I'm dropping out. And they were like, what? I said, but I'm going to get a job. I'm going to work. I'm going to do something. And I did. I went to work at, then it was called Victim Services Agency in New York City. Now, I forget what it's called, but something different. And I just started working $19,000 a year, first job out of the gate. I started working in a police precinct in the Bronx, working with a police officer who was assigned to deal with domestic violence cases. And so every morning we would look at the 911 calls that had come in, identify the ones that had domestic violence related issues, and we'd call the women, and then we'd go out and we'd see them, and we would try to connect them to services and get them out if they needed to get out. It was incredible. It was a wonderful, wonderful program. I loved it. And it really just opened my eyes to what's going on in the world and how much need there is and how much support people can provide. And it also showed me what an impact I could make. I had this incredible experience there. There was a woman who I had never met in person, and she killed her husband in self-defense. And And I was able to connect her with some legal services and other things. And, thank goodness she was acquitted and she was fine. And I had only spoken to her on the phone, had never met her in person. And a few months after that had happened, I was in Manhattan at the main office of the agency I work for, and there was a big staff meeting. And all of a sudden, this woman comes in to give me flowers, and she was the woman that I helped. And I was blown away. And that we're talking 30 plus years ago. And that sticks with me to this very day. I think about it so often. I think there's a Hebrew saying or something, right? Like if you change one person's life, you change the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do. And I feel like I do that every day. I mean, not directly anymore, obviously in my position now, but
well, somebody's got to run an organization too, right? Like not everybody can be on the front lines doing the work. Somebody has to lead from the quote unquote C-suite, right?
Right.
What, for me though, hearing that is truly the impact story of it's for that to resonate with you all these years later. Just informs why people enter this sector, why people go to work in the nonprofit sector. I've had stories of people who work in group homes and are physically assaulted on Monday, and then on Wednesday they're back at work. Maybe they have a day off to go get services for themselves, but they're back at work. And these, unfortunately, these individuals are not paid high salaries. And I know of organizations that have people in these settings who are doing direct care and have to get second and sometimes more than second jobs, which is out of control. And that's, maybe we can get into that today, but it's just the fact that these are people doing the good work and they have to go get a second job. I have a friend of mine who's a CEO of an organization, and he told me as he was through of a nonprofit organization, and he was raising through the ranks, he had a second job because he needed to. That's a whole indictment on a lot of things, on how we compensate people in the service sector, and the social service sector, and the nonprofit sector, which ironically there's a lot. Maybe we are going to get into that conversation that you and I hinted
about. We should. Yeah.
We should at some point this morning. I just want to stay on this point though about impact, because I see this and I get to go out and see nonprofit organizations, and there are people that are doing the work. And you mentioned this woman who was in this situation, who her life was in danger, protecting herself. And then there was an organization that was there to support her and provide the services. Because, I've had some folks from some DV, from domestic violence organizations on the show. And I remember even on another show we do called the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. Oh my goodness, is it Long Island Against Domestic Violence? They have a shelter here on Long Island that actually families with pets, though, because some folks won't leave a domestic violence situation
because of their pet.
They're going to leave their animal, and then their animal is going to be hurt and brutalized. So, my point is, it's so much to when you're in that position, and then you need the support, and that had to be a wild thing for you to be involved with every day. You're impacting and changing people. I'm sure it weighs on you. It would have to be difficult at times, right? But that's really important work.
Yeah, and you know what? I tell people, I meet with our new employees, every new employee orientation that we have, I go to meet the staff, because I just think that it's that important that they know who I am, and that I'm a real person, right? So I always tell them, I did your work, right? I started out handing condoms out to street workers under the Queensboro Bridge during the AIDS crisis, right? I went into prison. I talked to moms who were incarcerated on how to talk to their children. I went into schools. I taught kids with a banana and a condom, right? How do you prevent STDs? I've been there doing that direct service work. I've worked in a shelter. I've answered a hotline. Just because I'm here in this office, with this title now, doesn't mean that I just landed here, right? I worked my way up, and I'm proud of that work that I did. And I really hope that it inspires other people. And that's what I tell my employees and younger people too, that I try to mentor. I hope that it inspires you to do more, that you can, right? You can move up, you can do what you want, you can still make an impact, even if you're not doing that direct work every day.
Yeah, I hope people hear you saying that, and I think that's important. Where leaders are, just the other night, I didn't even I had no idea I'd bring this up, but I was at an event for Ramon Law Firm invited me as a friend and a guest to an event for ASCAM, which is Association of Supply Chain Management. And that is not really anything in my world, but friends of mine invited me, so I say sure. By the way, gang, I'm a great guest. So if you ever want to bring me to an event, I'm
It's a
right
fun
around.
guest, always a fun guest.
I'm a fun guest. It reminds me of that joke of the mushroom who's sitting at the bar and he's sad and nobody will talk to him. And the bartender finally says, "What's the matter? What's going on?" And he goes, "I'm here. Nobody will talk to me. What's the matter? I'm a fun
Fun
guy."
guy. I love that one.
We just lost a whole bunch of listeners on that one. They're like, "Really, Tommy D? Enough." My kids are like, "Come on, Dad." They don't listen to the show, but
Dad jokes.
what's dad jokes?
Dad jokes.
King of the dad jokes. Heck yeah. I mean, it was like my daughter was born and I got a whole book of jokes right away. It was like moments later, I was ready to tell corny jokes. And I'm at this event the other night and they had all these university students from Adelphi, from Hofstra that are in supply chain management, and they were there. What were they there to do? To make relationships, to connect, to network. And I said to them, listen, are you on LinkedIn? Here's my card. If I could be a resource and I can help, let me know. And I think that's what's important is to continue to inspire these young people. So I hope you're listening. I make this comment there where I say some people have to work two jobs to stay in the sector initially, and that's wrong that that's a situation. However, we hustle sometimes in life, man. I've had plenty of different hustles going on at the same time to make things work. So I don't want to say light at the end of the tunnel, but there's opportunity as you look up and you see that. And for the C-level leader to be at that orientation and that onboarding is to say, look, I'm here, I've done what you've done, and you can do what I'm doing too, like from an inspirational perspective. So I think that's twofold that you have that level of leadership. And we could talk more about leadership this morning, but I just say, I'm grateful to hear that's what you do. And I'm grateful, just shout out to the team at Ramon again. Alyssa Murphy and friends for bringing me to that event because I know nothing about supply chain management. And now I know a little more than nothing about supply chain management. And I'm like, hey, here's a whole new group of people that I wouldn't hung out with before. Funny thing before we go to break, it was at Crest Hollow, this event the other night, okay, which I'm sure you've been there plenty of times,
How many times?
like this month or this
Right.
quarter. And it was so wild because I was in one of the rooms at Crest Hollow that I've been in, I don't know, 50 times. And the room looked completely different. It was like, I'm in this room for the Imagine Awards every year, and it's a totally different scene. So I'm talking to the Mater D, and I'm like, dude, this is like, I know it's the same room, but he's like, Tommy D, we just changed the lights, we do different things. And I go, it looked like anyway, different scene, different room. Shout out to that place because we're there all the time, and they do a great job for Long Island. We're going to go to a quick break. We come back from break. Let's get more into, I want to know, was there a point in your life, even before you went to college, was there something that drew you to this work? Was it something in your family? When growing up, did your parents like instill that in you and your family about service work? I want to know what that, because I find in a lot of ways there's something there. I'm still trying to figure out how I ended up so focused on this because when I was younger, I wasn't necessarily focused on this work. And then now once I know what it is, Lisa. I have an addictive personality and it makes me feel, yes, believe it or not, and it makes me feel really good to connect and help people. So that's why I just do the heck out of it. Don't tell anybody. Everybody thinks I'm a nice guy. I'm just doing it because it makes me feel good. So don't tell anybody my secret. Her lips are sealed. We'll be right back. Lisa's going to tell me the story. Right back.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to the hard skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.
If you don't have your health, what do you really have? It's time to feel good in your body and shift from struggle to ease. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul, where we explore the sacred wisdom of your body while you sit back, relax, and go on a journey of self-discovery. Join me every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to awaken your heart, transform your well-being, and unlock a deeper understanding of yourself.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
That's right, gang. Cut through the static. Join me in the attic. But like literally, don't like literally show up at my porch and like try to get to the attic. It's not that kind of show. It's a virtual thing. Join Tommy in the attic. All right, let's do it. So the organization's Epic Long Island. My friend is Lisa Birch. The coffee is hitting me. During that break, I feel extra energized all of a sudden.
All right.
I'm afraid to take another sip. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm fired up here. I'm thinking of some of the people we have in common. As I was looking at your website, I see tomorrow there is a walk. Is that right? If I do my calendar right? Tomorrow morning, gang. So that's tomorrow morning. What time?
It's 10 a.m. at Eisenhower Park. It's our annual walk to end epilepsy. You had mentioned in the beginning that we actually have several organizations. So one of them is the Epilepsy Foundation, Long Island. That's actually where EPIC began. Back in 1953, the Epilepsy Foundation was started. We are an affiliate of the National Epilepsy Foundation. And every year we do this walk to end epilepsy. And this is my first one. Obviously, I just started in this position this year. So I'm really, really excited. We have over 600 people signed up to come walk. It is not too late. If people are interested, they can find the information on our website, epicli.org. But it's a wonderful event because, you know, there are 35,000 people on Long Island suffering from epilepsy. And 1 in 10 people will experience a seizure in their lifetime. 1 in 10. Yeah. And 1 in 26 will be diagnosed with some form of epilepsy. So it's a lot more prevalent than folks realize. And what's so great about the walk that's happening tomorrow is that it's a hopeful walk. It's a very empowering walk. A lot of times when folks are diagnosed with epilepsy, suffering with epilepsy, families, they're very isolated and they lose the ability to do certain things, driving, for instance, right? And so tomorrow is an opportunity for people to come together as a community and to say, we can do this together and we can all live, a really good and healthful life. And it's great. So I recommend anybody. It's going to be a beautiful day. The weather looks great. Whether you have epilepsy, you suffer from epilepsy, you don't, come out, take a walk, join us. It's really going to be a nice day.
A couple things on that. First of all, I don't live far from Eisenhower Park at all, so I think I'll see you tomorrow morning. Second thing is I noticed a lot of purple in that photo. So I have a lavender suit in that closet right there.
Will you wear it?
I think I will. I'm sort of like threatening. That's a threat.
No, it's not a threat. I love it.
Well, it's a good threat. I don't know if threats can be good, but it's I'm wondering, is there like a band shell like they have, like the truck opens up on the side? So just like theoretically, like if I was to show up with a lavender suit on tomorrow, would it be possible I could come on stage?
I would absolutely put you on stage. There's no question. Somebody who works for us actually dyed her hair purple for this walk. So that's commitment right there. I didn't do it, but you know.
Right on.
Purple is the color.
Shout out to whoever that is. Way to go. Way to really embrace the mission and kind of let your hair down or let your hair up or
Literally.
whatever. So, all right. So that's fun. I will make a point of getting out to see you tomorrow morning. It's, you know what, the killer for me is all my friends have these awesome organizations And sometimes what happens is I see the photo on like Facebook or LinkedIn like 3 hours after the thing happened. And I'm like, oh, Jeff Reynolds, I wish I knew you were doing something today, Jeff. I would have been there for you. And
How do you not know what Jeff's doing?
And it's funny that I just said that because I don't think I've ever called him that. I just call him Dr. Reynolds because that's what I was told to call him. So I call him that, and he hasn't told me to call him Jeff yet. So Jeff, I mean Dr. Reynolds, my bad. So
I think you're okay. I think he's fine with you calling him Jeff.
You know what? I think we might
pretty
be
down to earth.
I think we're there now. I think we are there now. He's becoming a Tommy D fan for sure. Like all of us, me too, me included on that one, being a Tommy D fan. But Dr. Reynolds and his organization do incredible things, which we should get to that. But before we get to that and where you collaborated and worked at that organization, Family and Children's Association, which is where you and I first met, can you go back into childhood or when you were older where there was something where I need to help people? Like, what was that for you?
Yeah, a lot of people who work in this field have that moment, or, a family member who's been affected by something, or they struggled themselves. I don't have that per se, but I will say that when I was in high school, I was the friend group therapist. I was that person. Everybody talked to me. Everybody felt comfortable sharing their secrets with me. And I love to give advice, elicited or not. Although my family doesn't love that, but shout out to my husband. I know he's listening, and he will take my advice. I know that. But I grew up in a family. My mother volunteered. She was very heavily involved in our synagogue. She was the president. She was the president of the PTA. Like, I saw her doing all of those things. And I think that was just instilled in me that helping people was noble, right? And was something that you could do and be successful and make an impact. And so, that's kind of where it went. And then, when I was in college, like I said, I had a part-time job in a bank just to make money, but I interned at a battered women's shelter. That's what I did. I answered hotline calls. Right out of college, I worked with young women who were sexual assault survivors. I was just, I had a friend when I was growing up who was the victim of sexual assault. And so that sort of stuck with me. So I always kind of thought I'd work, in domestic violence and, something like that. I was a women's studies minor in college. So I was very oriented toward that. That's part of the reason why I left social work school, actually, because I wanted to work in something related to women. And my school placed me, you didn't get a choice, they placed me at the Northport Veterans Hospital. Okay. And I was not having it. I was young. I was like, I don't know what to do with these old men who were dying. They were veterans. And it was disorienting for me. And I wasn't able to adjust. And then some other things happened. And I was like, all right, I'm out. And I went back into it and started working, helping women in that precinct.
That's part of it though, too. Isn't that the calling part? Like, that's when you find your calling in that like experience, like, not to say it's a rejection to the needs of the veterans, but it was not where your purpose was. You weren't supposed to be there. You had this passion for supporting these women, and otherwise you don't end up in the Bronx, maybe. Or maybe in a wrong circumstance, you blow out of this market altogether, this sector altogether. You go, this is not my bag, man. But that, you know what I'm saying? Like, when we look back and we see how the path goes, that sort of made sense. Like that's how. Doesn't, not when we're in it though, right?
Right. And the path, you know what? It's so interesting that you bring up the idea of the path, right? I remember I've had a lot of young women who have worked for me, and I try to be a mentor. I try to encourage them and get them, thinking about their long-term goals. And I remember a woman who worked for me once when I was over at Northwell who, was just like, I want to run a hospital and I'm going to do that now. Yeah. Like, she just finished graduate school. She was in like an entry-level position and she was mad and angry, like, this is my trajectory. And I remember telling her, and I share this with a lot of people now, this is never your trajectory, right? You don't ever just go straight to something, or very rarely. Yeah. Most of us kind of have this zigzag path, right? Like, I didn't go straight from, that work in a veterans hospital to being a CEO. I worked with battered women. I worked with people who had substance abuse. I worked with people with mental health. I worked with people in prison. I worked in a hospital. I worked in a community-based organization. I worked in the Bronx. I worked in Brooklyn, right? You just sort of, you go where the path takes you. You learn something from every step. And then it just makes you a better person and a better professional. And eventually, look, you end up where you're supposed to be.
Well, and also to that young person, hey, good on you on the ambition that I want to be the CEO of the hospital system all of a sudden, right? Good on you with the ambition. However, probably not qualified for that role, right? Whereas you spend 35 years or whatever it is bouncing into all these different things and garnering experience and getting skill cards. And I did this and I did that. And now I'm doing this and now I'm elevating and now I'm here. Then they look at your resume and they go, yeah, of course. Actually, this is for you. You're supposed to be here. But because you've done the things, and I don't mean Lisa, I mean generally the person, you've done the thing to qualify now. And you have all those things you learned along the way. Those are the assets we need you at the top to run an organization. I can't believe this, but I can believe it. I've been doing this show a long time. We got to take another break. It's just part of the show. It's just like I talk, you talk, break time. So we're going to take a quick break. We come back. I want you to tell me stories because you mentioned you worked for smaller organizations, and then certainly you work for this big behemoth here on Long Island, which we call Northwell. And then we can talk about, Family and Children's Association, things like that. And let's get to Epic and let's talk about programs and things about Epic. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Philanthropy and Focus, Lisa Birch, CEO, Epic Family Services, and your boy, the one and only, the kid. I say that. I go, they call me the kid. And my kids go, no one calls you that. No one calls that. I go, they call me El Nino. And my kids go, no one calls you that. And I go, I call me that.
You call yourself.
I call myself that.
Fine. I can call you that if it makes
Thank you. I appreciate. Then there's two of us. All right, we'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on TalkRadio.nyc, and I will continue to be Frank About Health with all of you.
If you don't have your health, what do you really have? It's time to feel good in your body and shift from struggle to ease. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul, where we explore the sacred wisdom of your body while you sit back, relax, and go on a journey of self-discovery. Join me every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to awaken your heart, transform your well-being, and unlock a deeper understanding of yourself.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
That's right. I see you bop into the song, and it's very catchy. And people dig it. You know who loves that song? It's our friend Yolanda Romano Gross.
Of course she does.
Exactly. She's like, Tommy in the attic. She's like, I miss being in the attic, the whole thing. I go, I know we got, you know what it is? I'm about to do, I'm going to start to do a TV show at North Shore TV in Manhasset.
Oh.
And yeah, so we're going to do, it's a public access TV show. We did wine tasting. I did not taste the wine, everybody, because you all know, 14 years sober. But people, thank you very much. And I put these things out there for the world. I was in a conversation yesterday, and I throw that sobriety thing out there for everybody, and I throw the ADHD thing out there for everybody, and I throw the conversation around how I see a therapist and all these things, because I'm trying to normalize all this stuff, folks. I'm trying to normalize recovery. because it's real and people live this every day, right? I'm trying to normalize, this spectrum of learning disabilities and/or mental health because we're all on it. All right. Sorry to inform you. If you disagree with me, call me. We'll talk about it. But we're all on this. We all are human beings. It's a human experience, and we learn differently, and we engage differently, and we need different levels of support. So I figure if you see this guy who's doing really cool stuff in the world, and I'm telling you that I'm dealing with these things, then I think it makes it more normalized. And that's where the t-shirts come in. You can't really see it. Hashtag ending the stigma together. That's where this is all about. We're changing the world. As I like to say, no big deal, just changing the world. So wine tasting at North Shore TV a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to start this TV show where it's going to be my friends. They come on. It's going to be Lisa. It's going to be Yolanda. It's going to be Dr. Reynolds. It's going to be Jeff. Jeff might show up. Dr. Reynolds might be. I'm not sure who's coming. And it'll just be a kind of a slice of life in these important stories. Let's get into your important story right now. You were at Northwell. When I met you, you were at FCA, and you're at Epic now. Can we start at Northwell? Because that just what you did there and how that kind of got you to where you were with FCA, and then we're at Epic, if we could.
Yeah. So I was at Northwell Health for 11 years. I went there. I had been working all my career, since college, was working in the city. Everything I had done was in New York City. All of the agencies I worked for. I was married. I, had a child. Had another child on the way, and I was realizing that I couldn't schlep back and forth into New York City anymore. It just wasn't going to work because we had moved to Long Island. So I started looking, and I was fortunate enough to land this job at Northwell. They were looking for somebody to create a grants office for non-research grants for the different hospitals in the health system. And I had been doing grant work for some time in some other organizations. And so I took this job. I started this office. It was great. We did a really good job. We coordinated everything. We got some new grants. We organized with the folks who were running the programs, the doctors, and it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And then the offices at my behest really merged with the research office, and they didn't have a need. And honestly, I didn't want to do that anymore. And at the time, one of the senior vice presidents in the health system had been at some conference and had something on corporate social responsibility. And he went to my boss at the time and said, how are we going to do this? Do we have anybody who could do this? And I just raised my hand. I'm like, I'll do it. Knew nothing about corporate social responsibility. Yeah. Had no background, had no title, created a title, Director of Sustainability and Social Responsibility. Longest title ever. They gave it to me, and I just got to work. I started learning. I started doing things like greening our operating rooms in the hospital. Doing recycling events with employees throughout the health system. I published the first sustainability report that the health system ever had. I represented the health system at a conference. It was a great job, and it was a lot of new learning for me. And that's, one thing about me is I love to constantly learn new things. And it's one of the reasons why I took this job, actually. So I did that, and it was great. But what happened was I realized that I felt disconnected from the impactful work that I had been doing. And that's not to say that doing what I was doing at Northwell wasn't impactful, right? It's really important for the hospital to be a good corporate citizen. But I needed to do something more in the field, so to speak. And at that time, my friend, Dr. Reynolds, had just recently taken over as the CEO of Family Children's Association. And he had reached out to me. Back then, Facebook was brand new. Like nobody was, knew what it was. And he reached out on Facebook, and we reconnected. We've known each other since the late 80s. Wow. We actually sat together on the New York State AIDS Advisory Council back in the 80s. He is still a member of that council, the longest standing member that there is. And so he and I touched base, and he was looking for somebody to volunteer on some panel, whatever. And so we just started talking. The next thing I knew, he said he had a position, and I said, I'm in, and literally. And it was like 2 days. And so it was a great move for me because I was able to get back into the, community-based organization world. I was the chief operating officer there for 9 years. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. FCA is an amazing organization doing really, really good work. Jeff and I think we're a pretty good team. We did a lot of really great programming there, worked with some really awesome people. I saw a lot of them last night too. I love it. We'll always be connected. But, like you said in the beginning, I knew that I wanted to be a CEO. One day that was kind of, for me, in this world, to me, that's the pinnacle of the career, right? So there are not a lot of CEO positions on Long Island, and I wasn't prepared to go back to New York City. So I was just waiting for the right opportunity, and this opportunity presented itself. And I was approached by folks from Epic who said the CEO was retiring, and was I interested? And honestly, at the time, I didn't know a lot about Epic. And so I looked into what they do and the programs that they offer, the people that they serve. And I said, sure, I'll talk to you about it. One thing led to another, and here I am, right? They chose me. And I said before about the learning, because I've literally worked in pretty much every sector of this field, mental health, substance use, domestic violence, sexual assault, prison work, justice work. I've never worked with the developmentally disabled.
Is that right?
Ever.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? Because, the IDD, intellectually developmental disabled, the DD space really is a big part of the sector. And to have such a long spanning career and you not directly have worked in it is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we all know what we know. So my paradigm is I spend a lot of time in that part of the world, right? Although, with all my new initiatives and how I'm looking to make things better in the world, I really want to spend more time in the MH, mental health space, so, but that's really interesting. So what was it, what reservations, if any, did you have saying, well, I haven't done this work, right?
I mean, honestly, I was a little bit nervous. So the Epic family, and I'll just quickly give you an overview. So the Epic family of human service agencies, there are 3 agencies underneath that, right? So Epic Long Island, which is the largest portion of the organizations, is the IDD, Intellectual Developmental Disabilities, 18 group homes, a day habilitation program, community support services. And that was the world that I was not as familiar with. And then we have South Shore Guidance Center, which is the mental health clinic in Freeport that we operate, mental health, substance use, family support. There's a mental health clinic here at Epic, and then the Epilepsy Foundation. And so I just thought, you know what? I can learn the world of epilepsy or developmental disabilities. And if I have really good people on my team, that's what's needed. And the Epic family, they didn't need an expert in IDD or an expert in mental health or an expert in epilepsy. They need an expert in running a nonprofit.
Visionary, right? Captain, steering the ship, right? That's so great, because you have it's 3 organizations, correct? Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes I'm wrong, but it's 3 different boards of directors, I think you told me. 2 boards, excuse me, thank you. Yeah. So 2 separate boards. So that's a whole nother management thing, right? That's a different show. But that's I love that vision that I'm seeing now. It's you're the top officer, kind of like steering the ship, but you're not in it every day doing the work. Your leaders are, and then their people are, right? So so that's super important to delineate that, the work that you're there to do you didn't need to, have spent 10 years in the DD space, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, that's kind of what I talked about in my interview process, right? Is that I can get the organization where it should go, right? Where it needs to be. I can get the, the publicity and bring in new blood and new donors and good people. And I can have that strategic vision. And I think that's what they were looking for. So it didn't matter so much that I had experience in one field, but maybe not so much in the other. And I appreciate that. And I think that's sort of how my career trajectory has worked. And I really do feel like I've worked my way up to this position, having had the opportunity to do direct service work, do operation work, do some fundraising work, do a lot of government relations work. And now finally, it's all kind of coming together. And all those little skills put together help me be the best CEO that I can be.
That's awesome. And what a cool story. I really, really appreciate. Talk about CEOs. You and I kind of flirted around this conversation. Would we bring it up? Would we not bring it up? I want to bring it up. What's going on out in Suffolk County? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk 2 minutes, if we could, on Suffolk County. You don't have employees in Suffolk County, right? You do have employees in Suffolk County. Okay. You're not, the organization is located in East Meadow, right?
We don't have contracts with Suffolk County.
Contracts with Suffolk County. And we'll tell you all, gang, why that's relevant, why I'm asking those types of questions. But we'll have a quick conversation about that when we come back. But the other part I want to talk about is what's upcoming for this organization. I use the word visionary. You use the word bringing in new blood and new donors and things like that. So we always use that last segment of the show to say, what's upcoming? How can we help? Who are you looking to connect with? That sort of stuff. So if there is some things, and I think when we talked earlier this week, you said, I do have something specific that I'm going to bring up during that. Good. We do. I don't know what it is. I'm excited too, gang. I'm on the edge of my seat, but I'm not because I'm standing. So when we come back, let's just do a minute or two, let's say 2 minutes on what's going on in Suffolk County, the support you've put out there from a leadership perspective, and you and many, many others who are on the front lines having this discussion. And I'm teasing it a little bit, but we'll talk about it when we come back. And then how we can help you, Lisa. And then before we know it, you and I will be on to our 11 o'clock meetings. That's just how the show goes. All right?
Yep.
All right, this is Philanthropy and Focus. We'll be right back.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
All right, we're back. So I feel like the Mad Hatter in that what was her name? The little
Alice
girl.
in Wonderland.
Wonderland. Yeah, my daughter was in that play recently. I feel like the Mad Hatter. So much to do, so many places to be, so little time. Like I feel like that guy most of the day is like how I feel. So all right, so let's just hit this Suffolk County thing quick because I want to go to this. I really think I could use your help with our friends, Dr. Reynolds and others. I want to do a whole panel discussion on this. Maybe we do it at North Shore TV. Maybe this thing resolves itself before we even do the TV show, and it goes away, and it's not an issue. Hopefully, that's the way it is. But what do you want to set it up? What's going on with the county and a couple legislators out there?
Yeah, so there are a couple of legislators who created a bill in Suffolk County which would cap the salary of any executive or anyone who worked in a nonprofit organization that contracted with Suffolk County. And it would cap that salary at what the governor of New York State makes, which is currently $250,000. But it doesn't include, obviously, the governor has a mansion and the governor has a helicopter and the governor has a huge pension. And so none of that's included, but it's just the salary cap. And the idea behind it from their perspective is that nonprofit executives are doing quote unquote God's work, shouldn't really make a lot of money. and that money should go to the people who are, doing the day-to-day work. And so there's a misnomer that if you cut, an executive salary, that money will go down to the direct workers. The problem with that is, the county has no say in what executives make. B, that's up to the boards of directors of nonprofits. You can't recruit and retain good leadership if you can't pay them a living salary and a good salary, right? And there's nowhere that it says that if you work for a nonprofit, you have to be poor. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are doing some direct service work who, like we said before, are working 2 and 3 jobs. That is a reality, and one that those of us who are in the positions we're in are advocating to change in terms of rates and Medicaid and getting paid more so we could pay our staff more. But to say that you can't pay an executive, if I have somebody coming out of college or graduate school and they can go make a lot more in the private sector, what's their incentive? Yeah, of course, they want to help people, but they also want to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. That's the world we live in, right? So there's a group of us that have been working really, really hard and going to the hearings and talking to the legislators and just saying, listen, you're misguided. This bill doesn't make any sense. We need to get rid of it. We're really hopeful. We think it will go away. The other part of the bill is that donors cannot be anonymous, meaning if you have a child who's struggling or you have a child who committed suicide or something and you want to make a donation, your name and address would have to go to the Suffolk County Legislature. What is that going to do to those of us in the nonprofit sector? It's going to gut our fundraising opportunities. Yeah. Because some people they don't want their name out there. And so there's a lot that's wrong with this bill. We've been working really, really hard. I think we're in a good place. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And then, it'll let those of us who've been working on this get back to our day-to-day.
Back to work, back to doing God's work, and listen, I've been in 2 of those hearings already. And listen, we don't have the time because I'd go on for an hour rant.
We could do a whole episode on it.
Forget about it. I'm heated just even thinking about it. Here's what I want to pivot to really quick. Yeah. One of the things in show notes that you had sent over before we did the show was addressing the shortage of direct care workers and our inability to pay them a living wage. Yeah. As a leader in an organization like yours, you have many, many employees. How many employees?
We have almost 800 employees across all of our organizations.
And many of those are on the direct care side of things.
Many of them are what's called direct service providers, DSPs. They are paid a wage that, in my opinion, is not sufficient. Many of them do work 2 and 3 jobs. I learned recently that some of the folks who work for us live in homeless shelters, and at least one person had been living in their car.
Living in their car.
Serving. Coming in every day, providing services to a person with a developmental disability who can't care for themselves, and then going home and having to figure out how they're going to feed their own child. This is not okay. None of this is okay. I was up in Albany, and the first month that I got here, I was up in Albany with a group of folks just advocating for a cost of living adjustment. Right? New York State hadn't given cost of living adjustments that were adequate for the developmental disability field in 10 years. And so we try and we get we go in with a big ask and then they come back with a small and it's a negotiation, but it's still just not enough. We need to find a way to restructure the delivery system so that we can bill more, get more revenue, and pay the staff more. We can only pay what we can pay, right? If you're running a house, you have to pay electricity, you have to pay food, there's a lot, there are repairs, and staff are the most important thing. And yet they very often, get shortchanged in terms of salary. So we're working really hard to change it.
I want to do something on that. Maybe I'd like to bring together you and the folks in, our friends who are your peers in this world, and let's have a dialogue with that. And let's do that. We'll do that at the TV studio one day because we'll have more flexibility, more time, and things like that. Sure. And then it's going to go. Listen, I have no problem reaching out to friends that I have that might have a connection to the governor and saying, Governor Hochul, We'd love to get you on the. Let's have a conversation. Nobody wants to beat anybody up. It's about, let's be real. These are people who need something. Let's get to the bottom line. How do we fix these things? These are major problems because, gang, I said this from the first episode I've ever done on this show. If it's not for the nonprofits doing this work, it doesn't get done. So shout out to Suffolk County. Guess what? You really don't want these organizations to be gone because you're not going to do it. And then you have people who are unfed, unhoused, people who need services that don't get the services, shenanigans on you. That's what I say to you legislators out there who aren't getting the picture. And I'd like to make a very important shout out to legislator Rebecca Sannon, who is our friend and is doing an incredible job telling this story and showing and sort of making just making the story be clear to what it is. So thank you, Rebecca Sannon, for all you do, and we appreciate it. Lisa Birch, what's upcoming for this organization? How can I help? What do we need?
Yeah. So, we didn't talk much about the other programs that we have. I'll just say real quickly, 18 group homes, a day rehabilitation program, a couple of different clinics, mental health clinics, substance use clinics, all of the epilepsy support and services that we provide. We have the walk coming up tomorrow. One of the goals that I had coming in here, and I'm working on it now, is to figure out a way to get the folks who come to us with developmental disabilities employed. And so we just recently connected with Smile Farms, and if you're familiar, we're looking at partnering with them to create some gardening efforts here at our East Meadow location or someplace nearby, where we can bring the folks who are coming here every day for support and services, teach them a skill, get their hands dirty, get them to understand what it means to grow some food, and then work with some local restaurants and places here to sell some of that. One of the things that we need, and this is where you can come into play, Tommy D, is we really would benefit from having a corporate partner who wants to help support us. Smile Farms has resources. They'll give us some of those resources. They'll give us a lot of supplies and support and technical assistance, but they really hope and they want people to come in with like a corporate. Yes. Right. So corporate alliance, full partnership.
Two things I want to shout out. Shout out Spirit of Huntington Arts Center. I don't know. I'm on the board there. I don't know if you know that organization. We got to get you out for a tour, Spirit of Huntington. They work with many of our friends and other agencies. It's a community-based arts center, and its focus is on the population, the IDD population. Artworks is a program where individuals, as they age out, get access to learn the skills of building websites. In fact, for our business, my business, Vanguard Benefits, they redid our website, and my marketing team is a neurodiverse marketing team. That's who does the marketing for Vanguard Benefits. Right. Since I don't shout that out enough, go to VanguardBenefitsYou.com to check out our website, and that's the work of the team at Spirit of Huntington. And there was another one I was going to mention. Chris Ponzio and Lisa Lee over at Winners Center for Autism. It's founded by the Winners family, Winners brothers. They have a cool thing going on with a garden, which we'll talk about. We're out of time. I'm so happy that you become my friend. I appreciate you being on the show. I know when we had dinner that night, you wanted to be on episode 200, and I didn't want to wait that long because that's going to be next year. But thank you for being here. Thank you for being my friend. That's like Golden Girls. Listen, have a great day. Everybody, make it a great day. Connect with Lisa, connect with me, connect with this important organization.
Epic Long Island.
Epic Long Island. Make it a great day.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Lisa.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.